Lovely. Oh. Oh, it's gotta be young Caitlyn, right? Blue hair? Yeah? Oh. Grayson. This is stunning. Look at this. Oh. Interesting shot. Yeah, she's not into any of that. She let her have it.
That was quite some shooting, Kerman.
Did my parents pay you to let me win?
That's a serious accusation.
You held your shot. I saw you. You haven't answered my question.
I like this because
No, your parents didn't pay me.
you can see how I played a part in her growth and her direction,
I'm
trajectory.
an enforcer. For me, knowing how to handle this weapon means being able to protect people.
Yeah.
To be of service to the city. That's trophy enough. What are you shooting for?
Exactly. Love this. Oh, great transition.
What are you here for?
My sunny personality.
You attacked an inmate. Why?
Why not?
He was a witness in an ongoing investigation.
Bummer.
Does this mean anything to you?
Oh, it does. Get ready for a lunge.
Where did you get this?
There was an attack. This is evidence.
Score,
I need
the
proof
tone.
If I'm to believe what you're saying about Silco.
I could get it for you. Just not from in here.
Ah.
Undercity's gonna eat you alive.
You're gonna have to get her out.
I've got orders from Councillor Tallis concerning inmate 516.
Not cooperative, huh?
Is that right?
You want us to have a chat with her?
Hold on. Did he actually sign off on this?
Chats have you had with her?
You know, I never even thought to count.
Yeah. Okay. Is she about to prepare herself? And then the tone changes again of the score. Hopeful. Maybe I was wrong about this girl at first. Thinking from her perspective at that point, not me. Great opening, great opening. Hey man, look at this. I told you I was really enjoying Caitlyn in the last episode, and it continues here, giving us that poignant, portion of her backstory. Her and Grayson. This notion that she wants to be her own person, right? She doesn't want to be handed trophies. I like her. I really like her.
To some, they are mothers,
Oh,
fathers, sons, daughters.
Who was this, Daddy?
legend.
A good woman.
Yeah. He's had some time to think.
Arresting her would be doing you a favor.
I don't need favors.
Oh, that's tidy for you.
Yeah.
What if I'm not interested in playing along?
We've accomplished a lot together, Marcus. Sheriff. I hope you can remain a part of it.
Ooh, look at this. Boxed in. No choice.
This is a poor use of our time. I'm a counselor now, Victor. It's my responsibility to
Time
make
is
sure
something
kids are safe and
that is
protected.
not a luxury
I
for
work
him,
like
though,
the
right?
plagues to improve lives for those in need. Soon we can do everything. Soon? There are people who need our help now, Jace.
That includes him as well. Victor.
This corruption runs deep, Sheriff.
Oh
I
boy.
intend to root it out.
You could try.
Any progress with the stolen gemstone?
Yes. Chief suspect is an undercity gang. They call themselves Wild. They operate like phantoms.
He's short on time, man.
Victor, you alright?
That blood was mighty close to his hand there.
Wow.
Floating. Ooh. Yeah. That's about to bring some memories back. Yeah.
No, it was a mistake. It was a mistake.
Oh.
That could be a good way to get a lay of the land.
Too risky.
Wow. She might need an outfit change. Yeah, you're back. Home sweet home. But it's a different look home though. Huh. You don't want none of this, friend.
Nice jacket.
Think I'll have it.
Welcome to the lanes.
You almost got me killed.
My little sister could do that when she was 7.
Aw.
All us fisherfolk can. Don't you want to blend in?
I've seen it. Episode 1. How about this?
You had a vision? What if we've been looking at it backwards? They think. They adapt. You think Hextech can learn?
So much personality, right? Undercity. The colors, the smells,
Oh, Jericho.
the taste.
I knew this was a terrible idea. You don't actually know anything, do you?
Better than I remember.
There's the info.
I tightened our security.
And in so doing, put a target on your back.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh. Oh. A raven, huh? A crow? I always get those two mixed up. Woo.
What makes you different? So strong.
Whoa. Oh, I love those little flashes. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna run into each other shortly in this episode, right? Second. She looks so damn cool. And good. Okay, tough spot to get into, huh?
Well, that place does look like it has bodies buried in the basement.
You
Yeah.
don't know anything.
Hey, go on then. Enjoy some of this.
Time to prove them all wrong.
She's got her
Once again.
claws in there.
Councillor Tallis is willing to reinstate former trade
Oh, beautiful.
privileges to those who share his vision.
Lost at sea, are ya? Chase?
With him, you'd be investing in the past. With us, you'd be investing in the future.
How can I say no to such an auspicious offer?
Ooh. Look at that. Deal with the devil. Making the rounds. Great scene. Yeah. Jace is putting on a performance as well. He's so sweet. I like these two together. Expand your horizons, Caitlyn.
Like a trumpet.
You know what your problem is?
Please, tell me.
You expect everyone to give you what you want. If you really want people to talk to you, you have to let them think you have what they want.
And what do I have?
Quite a bit.
You're hot, Cupcake.
Yeah.
So what'll it be, man or woman? You can call her whatever you want.
Is there a little something something here?
Yes. Matilda.
These two? I dig it.
This has gone too far.
Imagining yourself a hero. One final act to make you the martyr you've always seen yourself as.
Ooh. Oh, that can't be real. He must be imagining that. Listen, that man has a lot of issues as well, you know, over the years.
He's faltering. You need to weaponize the Hextech soon.
I can't do it. Just
Give it to the doctor.
It messes.
You're the only one I can trust with this, Jinx.
I keep seeing them that day.
Oh, look at this. Let's talk it out.
Fear haunts us all, child.
Interesting.
Sweetheart, I was real sad to hear about Vander. But Silka's got the muscle and the money. She took over
And the
last
brain.
drop. So, things have changed.
This is
Vander's
stunning.
looking out for us.
I've only ever imagined the gardens. This is all I've seen.
Oh.
My father put hammers in the hands of the people, and they built this magnificent city. Imagine the wonders they could create if we put magic in their hands.
The world will never be the same.
Or the destruction.
We're not often in the position to give anything back.
It's gonna go there,
I
huh?
couldn't have done it without you.
Oh yeah, that score's kicking in. There it is. Get ready, my boy. Here's a man who doesn't have time for those kind of things.
That's beautiful.
I can't figure out why it's not working.
You will.
Oh,
Are you headed home soon? I thought we could walk together.
he's not going anywhere.
I'm probably going to sleep here tonight. Good night, Miss Yan.
Oh. It's a difficult feeling, isn't it? Ah. He does not have time. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, oh. The explosion of fluid. It's a stunning sequence. Look at this. Whoa. Oh. Yes. And the water.
Almost drowned in these waters.
You told me a million times.
Vander wasn't the man you thought he was. That day, I let a weak man die.
Oh.
Betrayal. That pain that feels like it'll eat you from the inside out can either break you or
Make you
forge
stronger.
you into something greater. You need to let powder die. You're strong now.
She's about to get
Just
baptized
like
here,
you were always
folks.
meant to be.
Pink.
Jinx is perfect.
Jinx is perfect. Good. Okay, that's good to see.
How much time do I have?
Not much, right?
Rotten luck, boys.
Oh! Have some of that.
I see you never learn patience.
Oh my god. There you go. Great fight sequence. Look at this. Oh. The angles, the movement. Choreo. Man, she can take a hit. Oh. She's getting it all out, man. Years of wanting to do that.
Where's he keeping her? Keeping her? You mean Jinx? She works for him.
Oh.
She's like his daughter.
Really twisting the knife there. Go on, Caitlyn. Come on.
I'll give her your regards.
Hold on now. Oh wow, she really shut down. She's a damn good shot, isn't she, Caitlyn? It all comes back, right?
Why did you let her go?
Do you ever say thank you?
He's gonna know we're here now.
Whose fault is that?
You're an alright shot.
I'm an excellent shot.
I love her.
Cupcake?
Stop calling
Yeah,
me.
I was gonna say.
My name is Caitlyn.
But you're so sweet. Like a cupcake.
Shut up.
Yeah, I can feel a little something there. Speaking of sweet like a cupcake. Okay, Jinx. Whoa. Great shot.
The sister. She's back.
That's problematic for him.
From the dead.
Ah. That was a great episode. All right, folks, episode 5. You know, I've got to say, that's perhaps one of the best episodes out of the 5 so far. You know, I certainly rank it in my top 3, top 2 for sure. You know, of course, as of this point, episode 3 it's one of those all-timer type episodes, right? So I don't want to do the whole, oh, is this better than that? Or is that better than this? And da-da-da. But, you know, the gist of it is that this is one of the better episodes of the series so far, for me at least. You know, maybe I should say in my opinion. But it just kind of felt like it had everything, everything that I really like. That a lot of it was really kind of almost geared towards me specifically. I know, you know, a lot of times it can feel like that for a lot of us, you know, members of the audience, right? And that's a special feeling, isn't it? That feeling of being so connected to the story and the characters, you know, being empathetic and sympathetic, and really legitimately caring for these characters as if they are real people. You know, that feeling, it's rare, right? And, you know, a lot of times, a lot of us kind of, it's almost as if you're kind of looking for that high of actually getting this type of attachment to characters in the story and their, you know, development, their progression, their growth, right? This is one of those moments right now, folks. I really adore a lot of these characters, a lot of these character dynamics. You know, this show, yeah, you know, the character dynamics here are fantastic. And listen, I'll be honest. Of course, a lot of the, you know, I suppose tropes and archetypes are not something, you know, groundbreaking. You know, of course, you know, for people that have seen a lot of things in their lifetime, you can recognize a lot of this. But the thing is, the thing it's doing here so impressively is that it is presenting a lot of this in a really interesting fashion, in a really interesting manner, right? To keep it fresh, to keep it intriguing. And then, of course, you bring in the phenomenal artistic direction, right? The animation, the jaw-dropping animation, the photography, the score, the original score, of course, the voice acting, all of that. Maybe, you know, maybe the intro is not my cup of tea, you know, not quite my tempo. Imagine Dragons is not. It's certainly not my, you know, cup of tea. I'm sure, you know, it is for a lot of people. It's not my thing. But, you know, I do really like the lyrics. You know, the actual lyrics of the intro are really quite poignant, I think. I mean, hell, they actually put the intro in the scene, right? Vi coming back, you know, to the lanes, going through the lanes. Bit of a homecoming for her. And, you know, that's one of the special moments of this episode for me, her actual homecoming. Right? You see, once she does kind of get out, and I'll get into the whole Caitlyn and Vi character dynamic here. It's become one of my favorites in one episode's time, right? And there was some beautiful setup for this in the last episode, or some exciting setup or potential in the last episode, right? These two together could potentially be something really, you know, really fun, really quite enjoyable. And perhaps something even more than that, you know? But yeah, it turns out to be the case, doesn't it? You know, seeing these two together, it was one of the best parts of the episode. But yeah, as she is on Upside, right, before she starts going on this parkour free running session, to really, you know, feel that freedom once again, you know, to stretch out her legs, kind of, you know, get some of that muscle memory back in. And damn, does it come right back in. You know, she is damn impressive. You know, I love Vi. She's impressive. She's strong. I love that they gave her a muscular build because that's realistic. She was in prison for who knows how long, maybe a little bit less than a decade, but it's been a long time nonetheless. And that's tragic. That really is incredibly tragic. For her to be stuck in there that whole time, right after that really traumatic night, just her and her thoughts in that jail cell that whole time. And you see that, of course, it hasn't been easy going. Of course not. It was quite the rough prison. And you see that she's really quite used to catching a beat down. Of course, she probably put up a fight as well. She's really quite capable. And I love how they depict her fighting style, her boxer stance, and just how impressive she is. She's a trained brawler, a boxer at that. And you see it on display in that fight against, that's the one name, Silco's second in command, the lady, who herself is really quite tough. And I actually even like her as well, as this limited appearance character. Because anytime she is on screen, there's a bit of presence about her in her lines of dialogue. It's quite impactful dialogue anytime she does speak. I'll have to, go back and kind of listen for her name so I can kind of, get settled in on it. I do only have 4 episodes to go. And also on that end, the final episode of Act 2 is coming up, right? So yeah, if you are going to compare it to something like the final episode of Act 1, yeah, I think I'm in for something quite incredible once again, right? That's certainly my expectation at this point. And, there is setup there for it to be quite the episode, right? From a lot of different perspectives. The inevitable sibling reunion, the Vi and Powder, Jinx, right? You see in this episode, the symbolic death of Powder, right? Now her true self is ready to show itself. It is showing itself. You see, once she is kind of able to dial in, she is incredible. She is intelligent. Hell, she's a genius. She's a damn genius. She cracked hex tech, right? She had the the note, the research notes, and she had the gem itself in its new stable form. She cracked it, right? There's a beautiful depiction of that. Her cracking it, her being dialed in, and you see the bunny pinned to the wall, almost as if it's like taunting her late sister, at least late in her mind. Or at least it was kind of symbolic of, look at me now. Look at the things I'm able to accomplish and do. And listen, it's damn impressive. The things she is able to do is damn impressive. Hell, she probably actually had a hand in a lot of the shimmer tech, I guess. You could call it shimmer tech, I suppose. And, that gear, or helping Silco kind of develop that gear over the years. So much so that Silco has a lot of trust in her, right? He straight up tells her, you're the only one I can trust with this, right? And I don't think he's bullshitting. It's already been firmly established that he's not bullshitting her. He believes this, right? He actually legitimately has this bond, this connection, and this trust. Quite the trust. So I think that, that bond, since the time skip, I think that is one of the more special parts of this series, this show. Yes, it's interesting. It's rather unique in how it functions, right? But it's still special. And I mentioned the death of Powder and the emergence of Jinx, right? Before it was essentially a bit of a combination of the two, right? She kind of goes back and forth. She kind of gets triggered and kind of essentially goes right back to that moment in time, right? That childlike state, that childlike fear she had at that moment. It's there. It's still in her mind. But, again, the symbolic death of Powder in this one, in that incredible baptism scene, essentially, in the river, right? I mentioned the beautiful art direction. Jesus. Look at it. Just look at the frames, man. I struggle. Sometimes there's moments like episode 3, right? You see the fallen angel moment, the final frame of the episode, essentially, Jinx's eye, right? Her purple eye there. To me, okay, before that I had, okay, yeah, this could be a thumbnail, this could be a thumbnail. Then I see that frame, I'm like, That's the thumbnail, folks. Sometimes it just kind of shouts out at you, but then other times you're just kind of stumped, or at least I am. And I'll be honest, a lot of times throughout the episode, in my mind, I'll be thinking, oh, okay, that's quite fitting in terms of this episode thematically, right? So I'm always thinking about that. This one is really difficult, man. This show, it makes it really difficult to pick out a thumbnail because at any given time, there could be 10 to 15 possible thumbnails. But yeah, it's a fantastic scene. It's one of the best of the entire series at this point. There's something really quite tender about it. Even though you could argue there's a few problematic connotations attached to it as well. But, I think at the heart of it, there is this really special bond there, right? And he continues to see so much of himself in Powder, in Jinx now, I suppose. And he wants to see her heal. He doesn't want her to be haunted by the past. By the pain of the past. But as the late Vander once said, I suppose you can't escape the past, or I'll never escape the past. Something along those lines, right? This is around the time Marcus came in. Around the time he had that young gun, bravado about him, just yelling and smashing things. I'll bury the lot of you, right? And of course, I'll get to Marcus. I have some thoughts on Marcus, right? Even a character like Marcus has now become really quite fascinating. That sentiment that Jinx is perfect. Yeah, it's quite a lovely one, and I think he believes it. And he wants her to believe that as well, that you're fine. Nothing wrong with you. But listen, like I said in the last episode, and I wasn't even joking, I legitimately think she needs therapy. There's a lot of this trauma that is never being dealt with, and it doesn't look like it's going to be dealt with either. So, it's almost as if it's being suppressed. And listen, Jinx, she's killed people. They show you the funeral, right? In this episode, her actions killed a lot of people, 6 people, right? And the thing I like here is that the fact that they are focusing on that funeral, I like that it's given a certain amount of heft, that this means something, that they're not just red shirts. Ultimately, yeah, maybe they are in the grand scheme of things. They're not named characters that all of us care about, but focusing on that. And then, of course, Marcus's part in all of that as well, his new role as sheriff. I thought it was a great inclusion to the episode. It really was. So yeah, there's this really fascinating gray area, isn't there? But yeah, he certainly did his part in kind of helping Powder, Jinx, get over this mental block of hers, right? And really kind of help her focus herself, dedicate herself. And you see, once she's able to do that, she can do amazing things. She's capable of doing amazing things, even more so than usual. I just think it's so damn impressive. It shouldn't be taken lightly that she was able to crack hex tech just from these notes. She doesn't have any schooling or any training or any of that. But on the topic of death and rebirth and change as an individual, and breaking out of that cage of fears, essentially, let's go to the final moments of this episode, the final line of this episode. Back from the dead, right? I mean, that is such a fitting line of dialogue, isn't it? And the delivery is just fantastic as well, especially coming from Silco, right? Back from the dead, much like yourself, Silco, my dude, right? Because as Silco mentioned, he let that version of him die. And also, that's not exclusive just to Silco either, right? The whole death and rebirth aspect of this. That's actually been a major focus of this show since day one, since episode 1. I think I've seen it happen over the span of these 5 episodes for many characters, right? Vander, right? You see the shift over the span of the first few episodes. You see the person he is now, the person he used to be, and the person he's trying to be because of changes. Changes can always shift that mindset, right? Time and age can shift that mindset. That is something that is applicable to Marcus in this episode. Again, I'll come back to him. But, this concept of, Powder being dead and now the rebirth as Jinx and Jinx proper now, just Jinx exclusively, and I mentioned the notion of the past coming back to you and, kind of being inescapable. She's going to run into her sister, her big sister. I mentioned my expectations for the conclusion of the second act. Surely it's going to be in the next episode, right? That coming together. And I'm really quite... I don't know, man. I've got butterflies about it already because it promises to be quite the emotional moment. Quite the unpredictable moment, right? It is going to be full of anger, resentment as well. Just a lot of things that could be on the board, essentially, on the plate. And, this concept of Powder being dead, the next question is she truly dead? Is she truly gone? Could she ever come back? Let's see. The remnants of Powder still might be in there, and they might be triggered by, coming across her sister once again. One of many bombastic possibilities, I think. Once I get to Upside, there's other potential there as well, given Victor's current situation and condition, and Jace being really quite upset with himself, perhaps, in terms of how he kind of let it get to this point, how he kind of ignored it almost, or at least just didn't pay enough attention to this situation, right? And this is someone he cares for, and I love seeing that moment, and it's a great transition. The transitions is one thing this show really excels at. It's some of the best I've seen in recent memory. The use of the transitional hinge and impactful and meaningful transitions. Sure, sometimes it can be for comedic effect, but sometimes it's really quite poignant. And there's a lot of foreshadowing built in as well. A lot of times you'll have a character asking another character something, and the cut almost kind of alludes or foreshadows something along those lines. At one moment, you have Jace asking Victor if this is safe, and he goes, "Of course not," right? He doesn't have time to be safe. He doesn't have time for anything. But the next thing that they show on screen, the next thing it cuts to is that giant blade cutting off that mascot's head, right? On top of that food stall in Undercity. So moments like that, there's a lot of that going on in this episode. And there's moments like him asking about the time he has left. And of course, Jace is not able to face him in that moment because, of course, it's not much time at all, is it? And, it kind of even goes back to something earlier. It's a sweet moment. The assistant, the one with the glasses, clearly, she has an interest in him. She was hoping that maybe they can walk home together. And, she said something along the lines of, "There's always tomorrow." Listen, not for this man. He's not in a position to have that luxury, to just say, "Oh, okay, there's always tomorrow. I'll come back to it." He has to be at it at all times. That's the unfortunate truth of the matter for him, right? He has to spend every minute he can on this, on this potential breakthrough. And there might have been some kind of breakthrough here. Something unintentional, essentially. His blood, and then the hex tech or the arcane kind of reacting, having this magical reaction to, or a different magical reaction to organic fluid, right? His blood, right? And then of course, the follow-up scene, it's one of the standout moments for sure. The sex scene, and then the scene of the blood, and the reaction it's having within the goddamn hex tech, right? Arcane hex tech, the gem. And, to me, it really kind of felt like the birth of a new organism, right? Of course, the fact that it is contrasting the sex scene is, by design, of course, right? Fluids kind of traveling through, carrying through, and then there's that moment, the moment. And also it's a depiction of how things have played out for the two partners, right? Jace is out here really getting to experience a lot of the delightful stuff. Yeah. Though, listen, Jace, you have to feel bad for Jace as well. He's a little bit out of his depth. And he is kind of being manipulated. That's been clear for some time now. But, Mel is interesting, isn't she? Because her true motives and her reasoning for a lot of this is still not 100% clear, because she wants to be a part of something incredible, something game-changing, something iconic for the ages, right? For centuries to come, to have her name attached to it. Because she's filthy rich already. That doesn't even matter to her, right? She needs something else, something beyond that. And, getting Jace in this position as a member of the council was an important step, right? Even if he was forced into it, it was an important step for him to be in a position to actually kind of expedite things, to make things happen, to have a say in things, right? And not to be shut down. But going back to my point about Jace being in a tricky situation, you could feel bad for him. I feel bad for him, for sure. You know, he's in this situation, impossible situation almost, of the burden of expectation, right? As the golden boy, as the face of Piltover, the face of the future. And then, of course, the struggles of unwanted responsibility, right? Being in that position, once he is in that position, he goes straight for the dragon's head, right? Straight edge. You know, I'm gonna erase the corruption, right? That's always one of the most difficult tasks, an impossible task, essentially. And you see that he does land a target on his back. And in that case, it's good that he does have someone like Mel to kind of pull him down a bit, you know, pull him back a bit, get him to reel back in, or reel it back in. That, you know, this aggressive approach is going to make you enemies, and you don't need enemies at this point. Not these enemies either, right? These specific enemies, your fellow council members, right? Who do like to partake in some illegal activity or imports, right? The rich have rich tastes. So, yeah, you know, it's an interesting dynamic, Mel and Jace, for sure, right? And maybe there's even a sense of earlier she was just plain manipulating him. Maybe since then there has been a bit of, I don't know, shift in demeanor. I'm not too sure about that. I'm just kind of throwing it out there. To me, it still feels like she's manipulating him for her own agenda, right? And of course, you know, sex can be quite the manipulation tactic. Give it into that, right? But the thing I really loved, and I kind of alluded to this earlier, is that, you know, that fantastic transition, of course, Mel by herself in the bed, Jace is gone because something more important came up, right? This really made me happy to see this, right? That he was there for him at that moment. But, you know, to me, it kind of really felt like, okay, this is the wake-up call for Jace. Now, he might try to expedite things. He might try to put something into motion, right? To help his friend, to help his partner, someone he does care for, you know? Even though their trajectories have been a little bit different, quite contrasting, he cares for him. I think they've made that clear. So yeah, you know, again, given the fact that it is the final part of Act 2, yeah, I could see something crazy, something insane that Jace could try, right? Take matter into his own hands. You know, I'm going to give it a shot. You know, I'm not just going to watch my friend, my partner suffer and die in the coming days. Who knows? You know, it could be days, essentially. But, you know, speaking of the politics of it all, and it really feeling like early Game of Thrones, once again, I get a really fantastic scene. You know, it's staged inside of that opera, that beautiful opera, right? And of course, the imagery that is on display is really quite interesting, isn't it? But yeah, I love that it was staged there. And, you know, again, it kind of makes it interesting, the politics aspect of it, to stage it in a manner that is unique and interesting as well. You know, sure, perhaps for some people that could be a boring aspect of this, right? So it's great that they're presenting it in such an organic and natural fashion that, okay, they're all out here for this really important and exclusive, you know, opera. But I love how there's so many layers to it. You see almost all of them are scheming and planning and trying to, you know, better position themselves in their endeavors, all of that going on. But the only one that has no interest in any of that, no ulterior motives, Heimendinger, right? He is legitimately just taking in the beauty. He is just lost in that music and the majesty of this performance that he's getting to experience, right? Nothing there. There's nothing else there. So essentially kind of showing us that he's the only one that's absolutely pure and not corrupt. But also, you know, it's not as simple as that, is it? There's also this notion of him being oblivious to it all, right? Maybe a little bit clueless. But let me kind of go back and finish some of my points from earlier. You know, first of all, you know, I mentioned the whole, how long do I have to live? And then it cuts to the two cards, right? Death and Magician. Now, my first thought upon seeing that was, okay, you know, to me, it was kind of like you know, magicians are known to kind of escape death, right? Do incredible things to escape death. or do the impossible and escape death, certain death. And then, then that kind of also leans into the whole concept of death and rebirth. So, again, it's interesting. You have to really look at the cuts and the transitions and the hinges for Victor, specifically in this episode. There's a lot of it going on. And a little bit earlier, I mentioned Vi getting out, right? And she kind of takes a whiff, doesn't she? And I think at this point, she's an upside. Didn't seem right. It didn't feel right. But then later, once she does make it back to Undercity, to the lanes, she takes another whiff, and yeah, that felt right. You see it in her face, the expression, right? Home sweet home. But again, like I said, it's a different look home at this point. Maybe she even felt like a bit of an outsider at that point. But again, I love the look of it. Love the presentation of Undercity, the lanes, right? It's full of life, full of color. But, in terms of her expressions specifically, in the conclusion of that fight, incredible fight, of course, that lady, Silco's second in command, mentioned that she's working for him now. There's a total shift. She just freezes up. She's just kind of shocked at this notion, the possibility of this, and yeah, she's done. She's kind of checked out at that point, and she leaves herself open and gets stabbed for it. And she would have been dead if Kate didn't come in and, land some of those perfect shots, right? Deliberate shots, not kill shots, not lethal shots, but yeah, they firmly established earlier in the episode that she's a damn good shot, excellent shot. She didn't miss, right? That's all by design. And you could tell it's not really it's not really her, I don't know, her style. It's not part of her character to be killing people out here just like that, right? She has a moral compass. Grayson asked her, what exactly are you shooting for? She's shooting to protect, right? And you see it on display here. And she continues to be such a fantastic character, but I'm so here for that team up, that duo, those screen partners, right? And perhaps partners beyond that as well. Listen, there's a lot of things at play here, so things like a romantic angle might not be the first thing that comes to mind, but there's some signs here, some telltale signs here that there's something there. Hell, you even get a bit of a confirmation for Caitlyn and her preference, and Vi seemed to have liked it. She seemed to have liked the confirmation that she saw or got. Right? That was one of the only few times that she cracked a smile since coming out. Right? An actual, legitimate, genuine smile. Right? She did that shifty eyes thing, and she's got this smile. It's such a cute moment, isn't it? But yeah, I like them together, man. I dig it. I do. There's a lot of fantastic chemistry there. She called her sweet as a cupcake, right? Of course, they had that cupcake moment back in episode 1 as well. So I think there's a lot of lovely banter going on here as well. And I think given the nature of this show and this story and the positions they do find themselves in, I think it'll be a lot of indirect, communication and confirmation in terms of potentially being interested in each other. But also in terms of the fight, that was just phenomenal. It was just so realistic, wasn't it? The heft, you really feel the heft of it. You feel that's painful. You feel that aspect of it, right? The sound design, the actual technique on display, her boxing stance. You see that she has these really strong quads, right? I mentioned that she's got this muscular build. It's so realistic, right? Because a lot of punching power comes from that tilt, that torque of the hips and, using your legs. And she's got powerful legs, man. Those quads are really quite impressive. I think really quite attractive as well. You can see that they've done their research and tried to make it as authentic as possible, right? And listen, another thing I really liked here is the fatigue aspect of it, right? Because fighting is draining. It's perhaps one of the most draining things you can ever do, right? I've taken Muay Thai classes, and it is insanely draining. And you're not actually even fighting anyone. You're just training, but you're still going hard. But it is so draining, right? So you see it. At one point, they both kind of start slowing down a bit. And also in terms of, fighting stance and technique, you see Jinx kind of returns to that arcade from their childhood, right? It's a sad moment for sure. And then you see that she has a bit of an episode, bit of a freak out, right? She goes at it. She goes at the machine. Again, all these memories that haunt her kind of come back, and I love the visual depiction of it, right? The scratchy look to it all. And then you see the different approach. Jinx is damn impressive in that sequence. She is, but you see that there's this desperation behind her strikes. But then you kind of go back to her older sister, from a few episodes ago, and again you kind of see a few of those scenes kind of cutting in as well, right? There's this one moment, it's kind of cutting back and forth, her on one side and Jinx on the other side. I thought it was a lovely touch, but Vi is much more controlled in her strikes, in her striking, right? Though also she also has this urge and mentality of kind of rushing in, attacking first, and asking questions later. But yeah, Jinx kind of looking up at the scoreboard, coming second, almost as if she's still in her sister's shadow. She's not able to forget about her. She's not able to forget about the past. A lot of great moments. There's just so much going on here. It's just jam-packed. But let's kind of circle back to Marcus. Yeah, listen, this is one of the few characters perhaps that I just didn't care for at first. And, a lot of it felt by design because he was presented as this, abrasive young person, right? That's really quite annoying in his disposition, really just off-putting. But you see that the years can provide a bit of clarity, right? It can kind of give you a shift in your perspective. Hell, he understands. He understands at this point. He understands Grayson and the role she played in all of this, right? The important role she played in all of this. Hell, he probably even understands Vander's role in all of this. Both of them together, Grayson and Vander. And now he finds himself in the same role, right? But two new people in those roles, right? Silco on one end, Marcus on the other end. But he knows it's not the same because he's not Grayson and he's not Vander. Silco, that is. He's stuck in a tricky situation, There's a lot of interesting visual storytelling on display as well in this one. But also, because of time, because of new responsibilities, you see that he has a daughter. He has other things to think about now, right? A shift in perspective for sure. And he seems to be an only father because in that drawing, you see that the mother is in the sky, right? That's usually how kids look at death, right? Oh, she's gone to heaven in the sky. So he has responsibilities. He has to think about more than himself, right? He gets the bigger picture now. He does. So he cuts a bit of a frustrated figure in this one, and you can't help but feel for him as well. But I don't think that's the end of his problems because he's about to catch some more heat from Silco because it appears that he told Silco that Jinx's sister or Powder's sister died on that night, perhaps, right? Silco legitimately seemed shocked. And then, of course, there's the other angle, right? He must have told Jinx and Powder that, your sister died. Like, actually believing that she died and then telling Powder and Jinx that, yeah, your sister died. So how does that play out if Vi is back in Jinx's life where, Jinx comes across her and they have a moment and then she has this, I don't know, maybe bit of a shift in her mind, bit of a doubt, right? And she confronts Silco about this. So there's a lot of potential here for a lot of interesting moments to play out, right? But also in terms of, Marcus potentially telling Silco that she just died, is he possibly also looking out for her a little bit? I mean, yes, he put her in prison and that's a rough time for sure. But after this episode, I'm maybe starting to think he possibly might have been looking out for her, kind of, in some sense. But also, I think it is also a case of, yeah, they needed someone to pin it on, and he had the perfect person to pin it on. But also, lastly, on Marcus, that moment he's holding that coin, the bloody coin or the bloodstained coin, kind of takes you back to that moment a few episodes ago, right? Telling everyone inside of the last drop in front of Vander that here, all the money that is coming in is through, dirty businesses and dealings and all of that. But now, all this time later, everything he has attained has been through similar means, right? So I think he understands that as well. He's questioning the person he's become, right? He's become everything he thought he was trying to, I don't know, shut down, everything he thought he hated. So yeah, a lot of interesting stuff in this one. But I think that should do it for this one, folks. I've just got to say, I just have this sadness, about Victor. It just made me so sad to see him in this episode. And, listen, Jace does kind of continue that whole, making decisions without his partner. Doesn't consult him, starts making those deals at the opera, right? He's just kind of in the shadows. He's in the back, again, blood, sweat, and tears, trying to, kind of take the next step. And he's really dead set on helping the unfortunate, the people from Undercity. But then, of course, it's not selfish, but it's only human to think about himself as well. Maybe I can make this breakthrough and help myself as well, right? Given that my situation isn't the greatest anymore. It's getting to that stage now. A lot of interesting moments as well, right? At one moment, he called it a vision, but it was kind of induced by being lightheaded from the blood loss and his condition as well. So something really interesting going on there as well. But yeah, I think that's about it for this one, folks. If you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in full length, timer-based full length, of course, and also maybe early access to the next few episodes right now, and perhaps supporting the channel, consider checking out the Patreon page. The links are in the description and the pinned comment, also links to social media, if that's your thing. Ooh, okay, right then. Thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. It really is. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 6. Until then, take it easy.